Just let me know, Brandon, when you think everyone is in.
I believe we're good.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. As a kind reminder, today's event is being recorded. The recording will be available for playback on NBC Palm Springs digital network through the election. Audience video will be turned off and the audio muted during this event to help protect the integrity of the digital stream. Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. As a service to our community, the Coachella Chamber of Commerce, in partnership with the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce, is proud to host tonight's City Council Candidate Forum. My name is Diana Soto. I am the Vice President and Director of Public Policy for the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce, and I will be the MC for tonight's forum. The candidate speaking order for tonight's event was determined by alphabetical order of last name, as all our candidate forums will be done this year. We have allotted each candidate 3 minutes to make an opening remark. Candidates, when it's your turn, please state your name, followed by your 3-minute introductory statement. We have Rebecca Rizzo with signs showing how much time is left. Please respect the time limits, and you can see her on your screen there. In addition to the time restrictions, we have kindly asked the candidates to refrain from disparaging or engaging with their fellow candidates. A reminder that this is a forum and not a debate. Please limit your discussion to your individual plans and perspectives on the city of Coachella. So let's begin with our first candidate. Again, you have 3 minutes. We would like to welcome candidate Denise Delgado. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Denise Delgado and I'm running for Coachella City Council. And thank you for putting this forum together. I greatly appreciate it. I'm an educator with CVUSD. At the age of 20, I became a single mom and moved from Coachella to Belcamp, Maryland. I accepted a job as a corporate manager for Saks Fifth Avenue and went on to work for other large retailers like Ace Hardware and Saks Fifth Avenue. It wasn't the easiest for me. So I honestly struggled quite a bit balancing being a new young mom and working long hours and weekends. It took a huge toll on my family. At the same time, I completed my bachelor's degree online. It was not common in those times, but it worked for me at that time. I went back to school to teach and earn a master's degree in secondary education. And I'm currently working on my second master's degree from USC in local government. One question that I was asked over and over was, what was my platform? And what do I think needs to be done in the city? And to me, that was a question really for the residents and business owners and investors in the city, than as to what I thought what was best for the city. I created a survey that had 5 issues on it. And I walked residents' homes and shopping plazas and asked them to choose the top 3 that were the most important, and came back home and tallied those results. And the community said, that they wanted to be included in decision-making. Second issue was that they wanted more public safety. And third is that they wanted more economic opportunities in the city. They wanted more stable revenue streams. It is critical that residents are included in the local decision-making. We need signboards notifying the community of upcoming meetings and developments. All social media handles should be available in English and Spanish, including mailers and COVID-19 material. Town halls should be offered so that residents can give input on important developments in the city. Residents' well-being is the utmost importance, and community alerts on negative impacts on health needs to be provided, such as poor air quality and windstorms. We need to have our own police department. A Safer Neighborhoods Commission needs to be created to include Coachella residents, health professionals, and a member of the police department. We have a big speeding problem in the city. We need high visibility enforcement campaign and community input. Partnership with nonprofit organizations is necessary to provide healthcare and mental wellness to our community, such as street medicine provided to our homeless population. Study sessions are necessary to evaluate where funding can be reallocated to provide health and wellness programs for youth. And lastly, steady revenue streams are vital for the economic health of the city. Collection of TOT is needed to provide recreational programs, parks, and public safety. We need to create local jobs and provide skills training that earn living wages, equitable taxation of cannabis developments, and revisit and complete approved commercial development for the purpose of generating city revenue. Provide vital information to businesses, such as grant assistance programs, workshops on filling out applications and reopening guidelines. Additionally, I've had the great opportunity to be able to serve the city through many capacities. having served several city commissions and managing a nonprofit that provides literacy and art programs, and in providing much needed health services.
Thank you, candidate Denise Delgado. Thank you
so much.
We would like to welcome candidate Leslie Figueroa.
Hi, everyone. Well, good afternoon. I'm Leslie Figueroa, and I'm running for mayor in the city of Coachella. I'm currently a community organizer and policy advocate with an environmental-based organization called Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability. I received my urban studies and planning degree at the University of California, San Diego. You know, my family is from Mexicali, Baja California. They, came here to Coachella to start their family. I'm the oldest of 3 daughters. I was the first one in my family to earn a college degree. And ever since I've been in high school, been involved with different community organizations, especially like building healthy communities to see the improvement of my community. I was part of that generation that was looking into land use and zoning at a very young age, which really inspired me to get my urban studies and planning degree in San Diego and come back to help my community. Now, as an organizer in the East Valley, I've advocated alongside residents on access to affordable housing, access to safe drinking water, government accountability and transparency. And my biggest strength really is working directly with community residents, listening to residents and seeing how we can come up with solutions that will advance the needs of residents in our community. I really believe that community voice is really critical in all the spaces we're at and should be held at its highest regard. I've advocated with residents and from the community of Oasis all the way to Sacramento. I know in my leadership, I'm committed to seeing a vision in Coachella that is really truly collaborative with the people and is progressive. That's why when people ask me what I plan to do, right? I plan to promote accountability and transparency that makes decision-making fair and is representative of our community and includes the voices of different residents and not just a select few. I know we really want to be able to democratize all levels of our local government that truly listens to residents' voices. And we also need to take immediate action on COVID-19. I know as many have been mentioning this, it's super important, but we have to make sure that we're moving into a fair and just economic recovery that works for all City of Coachella residents. I know I also want to make sure that we're building and creating long-lasting partnerships with various stakeholders in our community, prioritizes community residents, but also bridges opportunities with other folks in the nearby area, districts, jurisdictions, businesses, industry, agriculture, and the development opportunities that are available in our community also. I know my opponent was elected at a young age, and I know he did his best to bring Coachella to the present. And now I'm ready to take it and move it into the future with collaboration of our community stakeholders, our staff, and our council. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We would like to welcome candidate Naftali Galarza. The floor is yours.
Can you hear me now?
Go. Much better.
Good evening, Kimber and guests. My name is Naftali Galarza, resident and candidate in the city of Coachella. I'm a first-generation resident of Coachella where I reside with my partner and our 2 daughters. Many decades ago, my family immigrated from Guerrero to the Oasis via the Bracero program, which we will recognize tomorrow as it's the International Day of the Bracero. Wanted to take the time to recognize our ancestors that have come here before us. Now more than ever, we need leaders who will act to deliver real solutions for Coachella families. As your school board member, we worked hard to represent our students and our families, and we never shied away from tough issues. We're proud of our accomplishments, including allocating funding for the Palmview Elementary School that is currently under construction, paying our workers prevailing wages. Even before I graduated from UC Riverside with a BA in political science and a minor in labor studies, we were deeply involved in the city of Coachella. That in 2014, I was recognized as the city's volunteer of the year by the Coachella Chamber before the regional chamber was formed. Know that as your next city council member, we will work with our residents and business owners to continue to develop our city, invest in community services like youth programs and public transit, to name a few, support local businesses, advocate for affordable housing, and create infrastructure like fast, reliable internet connection for all of our families. This election cycle, we hope to earn your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We would like to welcome Mayor Stephen Hernandez. The floor is yours.
Thank you, host. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you to the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber for hosting this forum, and thank you for everybody, about, I think, over 50 participants who are tuning in. I was born and raised in the city of Coachella, raised by my grandparents, Angel and Loreto Cota, who were braceros who came to the city of Coachella in 1953. I think we are the American dream. I think we are the epitome of hardworking families that have done well and are doing well within the city of Coachella. I was able and fortunate to go off to higher education, UC Riverside, got degrees in English and political science, as well as attended the University of Southern California, where I received my master's in public administration. You know, I think the greatest compliment that I have received is that the city of Coachella is doing a good job, and its leaders are doing a good job when it comes to building libraries, building parks, building infrastructure, building roads, bringing in economic development. But we have more to do and more to go. And I think that when you think about where we were years ago and where people did not have the ability to dream, we have come truly a long way. So the conversation today is about bringing in universities and trying to bring in other amenities. So I think it's very, very important that as a city, we have accomplished a lot, and it's been happening over my 6 years as mayor. Moreover, though, there's still a lot more work to be done. One of the candidates mentioned that public safety is the #1 priority of a lot of residents. We are putting forward a platform where we believe that it's important to bring back our own police department. When we have community control, I believe that we can design and create a force that's going to be reflective of the values and of the citizenry within the city of Coachella. When we talk about economic development, it's very important that the city of Coachella continue to attract the businesses and the jobs that are going to be needed to keep us as a sustainable city. That's why it's very important that we look at our own utility. We know that the IID and the utility systems within the Eastern Coachella Valley have lacked investment, and we need to make sure that the new businesses, residents, et cetera, that are moving into the city of Coachella, they want to move into the city of Coachella, have an opportunity to get electrified and to get electricity. Moreover, it's also very, very important that we start to address the digital divide. For us, we know that our students are suffering, our parents are suffering from doing business at home. In fact, I suffered trying to get onto this forum digitally. So addressing the digital divide is going to be very, very vital moving forward. For me, it's about results. It's about taking a vision and actually practically implementing it. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. We would like to welcome Council Member Emmanuel Martinez. The floor is yours.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you and give a little brief introduction about myself and the platform that we have going for this campaign season. For those that do not know me, my name is Emanuel Martinez. I'm a serving council member in the city of Coachella. I grew up here in the city. My parents actually met in Mecca and bought their first home here in the city of Coachella, where they raised a family and got to, thanks to their sacrifices as farm workers, and then eventually my mom spinning into what is now the cottage food industry, we were able to survive, and thanks to their sacrifices, we were able to pursue an education. Right after CV High School, we went to UC Riverside. And I think for me, what makes me unique is I actually am the only candidate that has a business background. I think there's another one, I'm sorry. I have a business degree from UC Riverside, business administration and economics. And I think that served me well and making me a well-rounded, thoughtful person as we tackle some of the issues that we have before us. Right after college, I came back. I always knew I wanted to come back to Coachella because we know there's a lot of human capital that's often lost. We have people that graduate and find jobs in the big city, but I wanted to come to Coachella and figure something out to help my community. And I started working in affordable housing. Actually, when we talk about affordable housing, I did that. I worked for Coachella Valley Housing Coalition, funding multi-million-dollar program projects, single family and multi-family development projects. So I know what it is to put difficult funding sources together. I know what it is to put a pro forma together, budget, the cost of money. And so I think for me, I really understand the importance of businesses and really balancing the need to continue business growth with the needs of the community. So we can strike good balances, because we can't put all the onus on business to pay for future growth or all the community as well. So we always need to find that sweet spot. And I think that's something that we've been able to do here in the city of Coachella. After CV Housing Coalition, I worked at the state legislature where I learned public policy, worked there for 6 years, and I worked for the IED, providing public power to the community. And so we need to make sure that as we look at how we're going to grow, that we have a good financial fiscal understanding of our approaches as well, and not just say we're going to go off and do certain things. I think I bring that balanced, very fiscal analytical approach into how we move. And I think that's reflected in our progress. For instance, when we started here in the council, our budget was 9 million. Now we've grown that to 24 million. We've increased our reserves to about 16 million. We brought new businesses and really crafting policies like incentives that really attract certain industries that are lacking, that are going to help us grow. And I think that's going to help all around as it relates to public safety, infrastructure, and other just community benefits for our youth. And so I really think Coachella needs that experience to continue taking it to the next level. I have the dedication, energy, and desire of my family here as well, raising with my high school sweetheart to move Coachella forward. And I grew up here, all my family and siblings here, and so I want to continue working with the business community.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all of your opening remarks. We would now like to move into the Q&A portion of tonight's event. All of the questions posted at this forum were supplied by the Coachella Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors in consultation with the Chamber's Business Legislative Advocacy Committee. The questions were given to all candidates in advance. We do this purposefully as our intent is not to perform a knowledge test, but rather to try and determine how each candidate would govern should they be elected. We feel this is best accomplished by allowing them to state exactly where they stand on issues. The speaking order will be progressive, meaning that if you answered the last question, you will answer first to the next question. You have 2 minutes to address each question. And here we go. For our first question of the night, let's get right into the current COVID-19 state of emergency. We can see from the county reporting that Coachella and the East Valley as a whole has been heavily impacted by this pandemic. What needs to be done to help support, inform, and protect the community? What actions specifically could or would you take as a council member? Let's start with Council Member Emanuel Martinez.
All right, thank you for the question. I think we're going to do what we have been doing. I think I'm very proud of the work that we've done as a city council so far. I think we've implemented some of the most protective policies to make sure that our renters are protected in our community. We've extended those several times. The eviction, not only for residents, we're actually the only city that also enacted a protection ordinance, for evictions for businesses as well, because we understand how that important that aspect was. And also just filling the gaps. We did a lot of homework working with the county and just nonprofit organizations to see what gaps existed in our community that weren't being met by the traditional CARES Act funding stream that were coming down. And so some of the items that, for instance, we were able to fund were mortgage. There was a lot of mortgage people here that have homes that need help with their mortgage. We're also impacted, not just renters, but we also help folks that were dealing with deaths, making sure that they were covered, as well as mental health. And so the CARES Act money that the city received, we made sure that we put the community first and that we thought of the residents first, not like other cities who just used up all the money for their city administrative expenses. We could have really easily done that. But we know here in Coachella, we're the most impacted, and we know not only in terms of the pandemic, but also in terms of the economics. And so in order to help provide some relief, we put that money into the families who really need it. And we're going to continue to advocate to make sure that Congress passes, hopefully here in the next week, another COVID relief package. And we need to continue putting the pressure. We distributed masks as well. So we need to continue to educate our community about the protective measures that they can take as we continue to endure the pandemic. So again, make sure that we have resources to address some of the needs and that we're enacting policies that protect our community and businesses as well. And number three, that we're educating everybody on the pandemic and what people can do to keep their families safe. And so we're going to continue to press that so we can, we just moved to a tier, so we can continue moving to another tier and open up the economy.
Thank you for that. Candidate Denise Delgado.
I think we can hear you, Denise.
Thank you. Thank you. The city of Coachella has been hit hard by COVID-19 for many reasons. The pandemic continues to spread and people are forced to stay home. Workers are losing their jobs. Healthcare systems are being stretched farther than it was meant for. And some local businesses are at risk of closing permanently. And the country is bracing for recession. The crisis has exposed many inequities that threaten our residents' lives, safety, and security. Considering that our residents' median income is $34,000 a year, we need to ensure that we are supporting our food distribution centers, that we're partnering with nonprofit organizations like Clínicas de Salud del Pueblo, Borrego Health, and Riverside County University Health System for outreach to get to those who have lost their jobs and health benefits. Our homeless and immigrant populations remain vulnerable groups. Coachella Valley Volunteers in Medicine provide street medicine in the East Valley and are able to provide health services to residents without social security numbers due to being privately funded. This is an excellent opportunity to provide support to this organization so they can extend these services to marginalized groups. The city of Coachella is not only a large migrant community, but a large labor community. We have the health care workers, the grocery workers, the construction workers, just to name a few. Distribution of free masks in early April would have benefited our essential workers. Visible signboards, radio ads, and having virtual meetings with healthcare professionals is necessary to alert our community of the urgency and importance of following social distancing guidelines, beginning with local leaders setting the example. Also critical to highlight is the closing and reopening guidelines with local businesses and ensuring that it was made available in Spanish. They are already worrying about so much, having to have someone translate the guidelines shouldn't be another. Additionally, we have received grant money towards helping businesses. Having workshops teaching how to fill out the applications is beneficial. Again, these processes are confusing and what is required is overbearing. Let's try and make this process as easy as possible so they are receiving all the assistance available. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Leslie Figueroa.
Awesome. All right, well, so yeah, the East Valley has been heavily impacted by COVID-19. That has come to no surprise to a lot of people. Many residents are essential workers who are moved throughout the Coachella Valley for work, for family, for other reasons. And I do really think the appropriate preventative measures continue to be a gap in our community. In order to inform residents, we must speak directly to community residents in accessible languages in order to assess and adapt to the ways they receive and consume information. Though there may be people in our community who have not received any information related to COVID-19 or any updated information, as we know it changes every day. Folks who may be confused about the resources that are available to them and new policies that come up through either county, city, or the state. And this includes then creating a diversified communications mechanism that is used to funnel information to the community during and after the pandemic. That includes radio, TV, social media, text messages, phone calls, city hotlines, newsletters, signages, and learning from what other cities are doing, and not just here in this area, but in other areas of the state. In order to support residents, we should also be creating a comprehensive public health campaign in our city that informs community of their rights, healthcare resources, and public policies. This support includes connecting directly with each local business in our city that I know hasn't been done, and developing a bilingual local business committee to ensure businesses with less resources have the appropriate resources to stay open, can still brand their businesses, and ensure they have the safe protocols, procedures, outdoor seatings, and address any other challenges they could be facing. And in order to protect our residents, we need to be critical on the proactive approach that code enforcement is using, could be used, as other cities have been doing, that play a vital role in ensuring that businesses and industries are taking the correct safety precautions and are actually protecting workers in our city. For some reason, if workers aren't feeling protected, they should have an opportunity on being able to address whatever it is that they may be going through, creating that system for labor unions and other folks working with workers to enforce against those violations. So, the same process should also be mirrored for evictions and for non-payment of rent, because often in a lot of spaces, residents may be forced into these power dynamics where they're also not sharing the issues that they're going through. And we want to be able to make sure that people are housed even during and after the pandemic. Even if we have already created tenant protections, we need to be expanding those and making them better for all residents in our community. So,
thank you very much for that. Next, candidate Naftali Galarza.
As a city council member, we will lead to take proactive actions and not reactive decisions. We will continue to work in partnership with healthcare organizations like the Desert Healthcare District, Planned Parenthood, Borrego Health Clinic, Clínica del Sur del Pueblo, amongst many other groups, right? And education agencies like the school district to inform our families, our residents, our business owners about the importance of continuing to follow our community health guidelines. We're proud of our work, actually, in our involvement with the legislation that made the Desert Healthcare District expansion possible. As a Health Scholar Fellow in the state capitol, we worked tirelessly under the office of Assembly Member Eduardo Garcia to make this happen. And I'm even more proud today that we're in this position to be part of the change that we once fought for in the state capitol. In the business aspect of it, we need to make sure that we continue ongoing communications with the local businesses on how we can ensure our residents are able to continue to purchase the groceries, go to their health doctor appointments, dine out, while we support our businesses to continue to strive. We give props to the current council in their initiative to work to give grants to the businesses that exist already so that they can assimilate to the current health pandemic. We also recognize the good work that has done with the home ownership and renters assistance. And as a council member, we also commit to continue to being part of that change and working with our residents, our labor unions, our businesses to make it happen. So that's it for me.
Thank you very much. Mayor Stephen Hernandez.
Thank you for unmuting me. Let me just take a moment to recognize that race and equity is very important that we recognize in the city of Coachella when it comes to COVID. We know that in the city of Coachella, we have essential workers that cannot stay home and not work from home. They are workers that are working in the agriculture industry, working at grocery stores, working in other essential industries that unfortunately are not able to stay home. Moreover, we also have a lot of multi-generational households in the city of Coachella. That's moms and dads that lives with their kids, but also their abuelos and abuelas and tios and tias. And so it's very important that we recognize race and equity here in this COVID conversation. In the city of Coachella, we as a city did not start off with high numbers, but we took quick action as soon as we started realizing that the numbers of Coachella were going up. So as a council, we established a moratorium for housing and commercial evictions. Very proud that in the city of Coachella, if you have a house or if you have a commercial businesses, you will not get evicted. And this is going to go till next year. We did park closures as well as informed our businesses of what they needed to do. We helped our businesses acquire PPP as well as PPE. And it's very, very important that we let those businesses know what they have at their disposal. We handed out over 60,000 masks. We established testing facilities with Borrego Health. We established testing facilities with Riverside County as well as the private sector in Long's Drugstore. Moreover, just recently, we put a program where we put over $430,000 on the street for housing and mortgage assistance. First city in the desert to offer assistance for mortgages. We put money to mental health services because we know that there are a lot of mental health issues, and we partnered with Clínicas de Salud. We established a youth internship because we know that our youth are also struggling during the COVID pandemic. And moreover, we helped out the businesses as it relates to not getting enough PPP. For us as a city, it's going to be important that we continue to fund those efforts, and moreover, that we continue to work with our partners in the state and the county, as well as the feds.
Thank you, Mayor. Coachella has seen tremendous success securing grants and funding for public projects and infrastructure build-out. While it is important to leverage this funding, it is also important to make sure it is deployed strategically for the long-term growth and development of the city. How do you see these types of funding sources playing a vital role in the city's future? Let's start with Mayor Stephen Hernandez.
Well, thank you for recognizing that. We've, one of the things that I think everybody here is going to say is we need to keep applying and keep knowing what's coming down the pipeline. But more importantly, I think it's the relationships that we have established at the county, state, and federal level. It's not simply just to apply to a grant, but it's actually to generate the ideas for a grant. We have been at the forefront of generating ideas with the state legislature, the county of Riverside, so that when the criteria gets drafted, Coachella has a seat at the table. For the longest time, the criteria was set and we didn't even know what the criteria was. And if the criteria comes out and you're not at the table, that grant wasn't meant for you. But we've been very fortunate in the city of Coachella that, last 2 weeks ago, we did a small virtual kind of recording for a groundbreaking. And we were the first city that received cap and trade dollars in Riverside County, as well as a rural suburban community. Very proud of that work. We were a city that received dollars for our park grants, Park 68 grants with Las Flores. We were a city that just received urban greening dollars for Grapefruit Corridor. So for us, it's simply to be at the table. We need to continue to be at the table so that when those grant ideas are generated, we're there, Coachella is recognized, and we fit the criteria. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Emanuel Martinez.
Well, I'll start off by saying if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? So we've been very effective in pursuing grants for our city. And I think, again, you guys have recognized that just in the question itself. And we're going to continue to pursue that. And I credit our ability to secure funds to see the infrastructure projects that we've been seeing here in our community play out. I credit that to our understanding of public policy making and our experience in the state capitol. It's really important for us to understand that process and having the foresight, because a lot of times these processes take years to actually get into the funding disbursement aspect of it. And so with my experience that I've had working in the legislature, working with the mayor and his understanding of county government and all the time that he's been spending that for example, creates, I think, a strong team where you have individuals who really understand the public policy making processes at those respective levels of government, that when we put together, we can really work to bring those resources down and funnel them down to our community. Again, it's really important that we continue to understand, and I have that experience working 6 years in the state legislature, how these, for instance, bonds are put forth before the legislature, or how they're put before the voters on a ballot, so that when they are crafting that language, that we actually have insight, and also the relationships to make sure that whatever suggestions we're putting in whatever proposal that's going to provide future funding, that they're going to qualify for the city of Coachella. And that's something that we've been able to do, for instance, as it relates to air quality funding when 1318 and the gas power plant that got there. That's how we're able to synchronize some of the lights. That's how we're able to work with Eduardo Garcia, the assemblyman, my former boss, and CVAG, to make sure that we have the regional support and also the policy in place to qualify the city of Coachella. So it's very important that we understand public policy at all those various levels. And I think with the team that we have and the experience that we have, we're going to be able to continue to take the Coachella to the next level. And now with the new blood here with another person, Mr. Galarza, who has public policy experience, I think we can really have a strong team for the city of Coachella.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Candidate Denise Delgado.
Thank you. And I first want to mention what a wonderful job the city grants manager has done in securing grant funding for the city and the city manager and utilizing those funds in a responsible manner. These funding sources play vital roles in the city's economic health and residents' well-being. The focus should be on sustainable development and maximizing green projects. Two projects that I'm very proud of are the mixed-use downtown development and the urban greening project that not only increases transportation, but promotes but walkability and bike lanes. Additionally, is to go towards areas that promote public safety and decrease traffic congestion, such as traffic signals in streets where needed, such as the one in the Grapefruit Corridor. These funding sources also provide money towards parks that include hydration centers and promote health and wellness to Coachella residents, such as providing trees that block out dust, wind, and smell. These funds should be directed toward combating climate change and used for infill developments, where there are existing developments that needed improvements. Additionally, securing some of these grants leads to attractive transportation projects that favor pedestrians and cyclists that offset additional traffic. Infrastructure such as underground detention basins, electrical improvements, and other much needed things in the city. There are many ways that funding needs to be distributed that promotes the viability of the city. That includes biofuels, impact, reduction of carbon emissions, accelerated housing development, green buses, stormwater management, and other ways to help facilitate existing development. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Leslie Figueroa.
Hi, yeah, and I'm proud to see Coachella be successful in securing these grants, especially from the statewide California Climate Investments that awards dollars to disadvantaged communities and low-income communities. If the implementation is supposed to be strategic and beneficial to the community, it's critical that we're using this for our long-term growth of our city. We're leveraging these resources, they're coming directly from the state. And these type of funding sources were created for this purpose. They're created for the very purpose of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, strengthening the economy, improving public health of our communities. And this is really where some of these states' funds are more available to cities like ours that have a lot less funding available, right? So our focus on grants is like super important, and these funds can help a city grow into the sustainable neighborhoods that we really want to see to the future. As a city, we should ensure to take advantage of these programs, and our successes to apply for more fund within and outside the California Climate Investments, support local organizations and the community members that are advocating for this type of work, and some of the funding from California Climate on affordable housing and sustainable communities, the transformative climate communities, the urban greening, and just really making sure that we're also advocating on our end as a city government to making sure these programs are sustainable within the governor's budget, because we've seen them be cut in the past, right? And we need to be proactive to change the criteria of these funding sources, because often they're not just set. You can do advocacy, and a lot of organizations do this at the state level, and making sure we have those connections with our state representatives to make sure that these programs are set in place. So then we can be more successful as a city in creating and being successful with these funding applications. So our growth should be equitable, it should be sustainable, and it should be community oriented, but it should also be very collaborative.
Thank you very much. Candidate Naftali Galarza.
Thank you. You know, because of the tremendous success under the current leadership, like securing grants, as you all mentioned in your question, is why I'm supporting Mayor Hernandez and Mayor Pro Tem Martinez's reelection. For myself as a council member, we will continue to leverage our relationships and the state's trust to make sure that we secure funding to build bridges, figuratively and literally. You know, we need to make sure that we create those networks that bring the best resources in our communities. And we've been able to do that over the last 10 plus years. To add to the current success, I think it's important that when we do these grants, then when we receive these grants, that as a council, we work in partnership to implement ongoing programs to make great use and long-term use of the infrastructure built with the grant funding. And that's, you know, by including some, you know, community meetings, community intake, ensuring that they're part of the process. Like, for example, we have a library, we have a senior center, and, you know, a lot of it is through grants. And what is it that our residents want to see in all of this? And that's very important to me, because I know that as you know, Mayor Pro Tem Martinez said, it's not broken. We're going to continue doing this, and I know that we have the skill set to be part of this team to develop on that. So now it's what can we do to add on, right? I like to say, you know, some of these leaders have already built some of the roads. I like to be here to now, you know, add the sidewalks, add the street lights, you know, add the luxury to it. And I'm so proud to be here today. So, you know, thank you.
Thank you very much. One of the main focus of any city council is trying not only to attract private development, but attract the right projects that fit the right vision of the council and the needs of the community. How would you as a council member work with private developers to move Coachella forward? Are there actions that you would like to take that you think could better position the city to accomplish this? Let's start with candidate Naftali Galarza.
Thank you. I think in a way this complements the last in our conversations about ensuring that we work with community, right? And that's very important to me while working on private or public projects. I have a track record of being a very accessible individual, an innovative individual. We want to make sure we meet with our residents, our guests, people that come shop here, and our business owners to learn from them on what is it that they like to see when we work with private development, and what new things we want to see in the city. I think a lot of times as leaders, sometimes we may assume because we have a different knowledge of sort of community planning, but I think it's important to bring in residents and seeing from their intake. And one of the things I continue mentioning is the neighborhood want to make sure we inform neighborhood councils that they're involved in the projects, private or public projects that are built in their communities. And we want to make sure that through private funding that we could bring in some extra monies to our communities, that there's community benefits too. I think the city did a good job with some of the, now I think Coachella has the best murals in the city, and a lot of it has been through these types of actions. I've been, in my professional life, we've been able to be part of community benefits and working with developers. So we have that experience on how can we make sure that while we support this project that's going to, do good for the community, bring in revenue, and also, good for their business, what is it that we could do for our residents that we could continue, mentioning, creating these public goods. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Stephen Hernandez.
Thank you again. I want to combine the last question with this one. For us, it's been important that we deliver on infrastructure, and it's not simply just applying. Other cities in the Valley have applied and they have not gotten the resources that Coachella has gotten. But we're applying because we have the relationships, we have the networks, we have the ability to implement these projects, and we've been very successful. And as a result, the development community has taken notice. They know that when they come to the city of Coachella, the city of Coachella is going to work with them to make sure that when they bring in that $50 to $70 million investment, that it's going to be taken seriously. I think one of the things that the mayor has to do is set the tone when it comes to development. Certainly demonizing private investment and saying, si se vende, or you're selling out because private investment is coming into your city is not the right tone that we want to set, or even be affiliated with groups that are talking about investment and even gentrification. Developing private or virgin land is not gentrification, it's virgin land. It's not displacing anybody, maybe except maybe a critter or two. But what we're talking about is bringing in better and bigger development to the city. The city of Coachella has waited for a long time to bring good development into our city. It's happening and continue to happen. For us, it's important that as a city council and as elected officials, we actually read the plans that we have. The general plan, the Pueblo Viejo downtown development plan. There's a number of different specific plans within the city. And for us, it's being knowledgeable about those plans so that when a developer comes, there's certainty. So when a developer comes, we can tell them, look over here and not over there. So that when a developer comes, they know that these projects have been developed or these plans have been done with the community in mind. And if we have to redo those plans, let's redo the plans. But for us, it's about keeping a vision, moving that vision forward, and providing certainty with the development community. And I think that's why you're seeing good development come into the city of Coachella.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Emanuel Martinez.
Yeah, I think some of the things we've been able to do to make sure that we're working with developers is, again, two things that the mayor alluded to, right, was we have the general plan that lays out growth and development, and the development of that plan included community input. We had a tremendous community input, prioritizing what amenities and what type of development we would want to see in certain areas of the city, so that when a developer comes, we already have a plan that's to some extent approved by the community, right? And on top of that, right, we need to make sure that the city government, that we have stability so that when, not only at the council level, but also at the administrative level. So the onus is on us as city leaders to set the tone and making sure we increase the level of professionalism in the city. And I think that's what we've been able to do since we got into city council. Number two, that we have the right people in place that are capacitated to do the job and be able to facilitate the growth and the investment that a developer is going to bring in. I think some of the things that we've been able to do, specifically to tailor some sweet spots where there's a developer coming in with a certain project and there's a certain community needs, was, for instance, on here on Avenue 50 and Calhoun, where we have the Tower Market, and now we have a community health clinic that's going up. We work with them very closely to do some change of zones, make sure that that project got in there and meet the healthcare needs of the community. We've done that as well in the past to help facilitate development, such as CFDs and offsite street improvements. But it's very important, one, that we continue the community input, engagement. We have some plans in place to do that. And on top of that, that we have the professionalism and ability to be able to create certainty that development is going to happen. And so as homegrown and just the relationships that we have here in the community and our accessibility, we can definitely do that. Understanding our community and growing up here, and also understanding the business aspect of what it takes to development. Like I said, I have that background, so I also have that understanding. And so thank you for the question.
Thank you for that. Candidate Denise Delgado. It gets us every time, right?
I had the great opportunity to be a part of many developments that are moving forward, such as the Pueblo Viejo apartments, transit hub, medical facilities, the library, and our first market rate apartments, and worked with other government agencies to ensure that their downtown developments were following the Pueblo Viejo revitalization plan to give residents a space that they would be proud of, that promoted walkability, downtown dining, and provided many other amenities and services. However, we have many other developments that are not moving. We have approved 6 tentative maps for hotels with 2 tied to litigation. We need to get those hotels built. Not only are we losing much needed transient occupancy tax, but jobs are much needed. It is important that as a council member, we're holding developers accountable and thoroughly reviewing the development agreements before approving them. Unless the developer is in a timeline, we should be taking the proper measures to ensure it's being approved correctly. Hotel Indigo is being taxed heavily due to a timeline that I pushed for and made sure we added a development agreement a couple of years ago when their development agreement was amended to accommodate a dispensary prior to the first phase being completed. As a council member, I would work with developers to ensure that they're receiving the support from me necessary to get their developments off the ground. Not all of our developers have the same resources available. Some are small developments by locals who are wanting to provide financial stability for their families. I would also, however, make sure that development is benefiting the community, whether it's through providing infrastructure or adding to community resources. For example, when all the cultivation warehouses came through, then later changed to allow for greenhouses in the wrecking yard, I made sure that we included a bus stop in that area, knowing that many of our residents, many of our agriculture workers would be coming from the east end of the valley and our own residents to ensure that they have reliable transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Leslie Figueroa.
So we need to dramatically shift and make transparent the true vision of our city. Truly answer the questions like, what are the needs of our community? How will we grow in the next few years, during and after the pandemic especially? And how are we truly documenting community needs with an efficient implementation process that captures the needs of different residents in the city of Coachella and not just a select few that can benefit? Our city has various stakeholders that make up our community, and private development is one of them. I'm a strong advocate for ensuring equitable development that does not harm, not displace, or exploit community members. I believe there's a balance to help Coachella move forward. And that starts with developing and updating our community planning process and our true vision for Coachella. So as someone who enjoys urban planning theory and frameworks of equitable community planning, I do also believe we need to propose and create different community planning groups within the city that do consider and advise the Planning Commission and Council on development opportunities in the city that serve to inform the general plan, the housing element, and this will really help us democratize our different levels of our local government, especially within the planning process, that further will help us work as a community with private developers. This includes envisioning an economic development future with our city that has those community-oriented policies that incentivize mostly also local community residents who want to do work in the city. And then also in our local economy that ensures that outside developers are doing their part and paying their share of taxes and not taking subsidies to making sure that our community is equitable and fair.
Perfect, thank you. City councils sometimes find themselves involved in community disagreement over proposed commercial development or planned events. Even if a proposal is proper for the zoning, local residents may turn out to object to certain types of events in or near their neighborhoods. And in a worst case scenario, they voice their complaints after it has already been approved by council. Tell us your approach to both avoid and deal with these types of situations. Candidate Leslie Figueroa.
Yeah, so this happens, right? pretty often sometimes in a lot of communities. And as a city council, we should always make sure to first validate and listen to community resident concerns. If we had a system that really allowed community to give comments on these proposed developments to be done at a more community level, that truly would invite residents of our neighborhood and could avoid a lot of conflict. When we're able to notice projects and developments appropriately to residents before approval, it gives residents an opportunity to be directly part of the decision-making of development in their community. This community process could make the project way more successful because when there's community buy-in, it most likely will be more successful. Otherwise, it will cause community disagreement, and as we've seen it happen. Yet, if a project really is already approved and there are still complaints, I do believe we still need to hear out those complaints, take them back and see what changes could be made. If there's willingness to do so, we could accommodate the needs of our constituents because we must advocate on behalf of our constituents who are the ones who literally vote us in to represent the concerns of the city. We can't just tell them that we're not going to change anything, but how we can truly accommodate them. So if we had a more community-oriented policies in our planning process, we could avoid a lot of this conflict and create a city that really reflects the needs of our residents and their visions.
Thank you. Candidate Naftali Galarza.
You know, as mentioned before, we'll push proactive community engagement in order to avoid said worst case scenarios. We need to make sure that, you know, it's important that we invest in communications, community building, again, you know, whether it's a neighborhood council or just community town halls, and ensure that the developments and events are well vetted by our staff and commissions before they are ready for approval. I think that, you know, before even they get to our desk, in order to avoid that we make sure we work with our staff, our planning commission, whatever, Parks and Rec commission, whatever it is, to ensure that that's all been taken care of. I also believe in a regional approach going on with this question and the question before that. It's important for us to work in partnership with our neighboring cities, our neighboring communities, to make sure that we're all on the same page. And we, you know, make sure that we don't affect our neighbors, you know, in a negative way or whatever. But I think that we need to make sure we create the most positive things in our communities. Thinking of this, it's happened many times. I sit out, you know, through my window, I could see the new church on Avenue 53. I see the bell tower, and I remember, you know, being part of meetings leading up to this, and then even having, you know, big celebration years before, you know, when this land was first acquired. There was a lot of music, a lot of community, and stuff like that is why I'm reminded of why I wanted to be part of this, you know, and why I wanted to make those changes. I remember dancing to Los Angeles Negros and in this land, and now I look out my window and see the bell tower of this beautiful church that was done with community approach, and I will support, you know, moving forward in increasing it if it's not done properly, and moving forward and invest in communications, you know, whether it's with social media, you know, hiring a full-time PR person, whatever it is, but that's what we're here for.
Thank you for that. Mayor Steven Hernandez.
Thank you for that. You know, we in the city of Coachella have been doing a number of these different efforts. I'm very proud of the work that the city of Coachella has been doing with its nonprofits. We've been working with COFEM, we've been working with Alianza, KDI, who actually just moved into City Hall. In fact, Leslie Figueroa's business or nonprofit she works for in Leadership Council has actually done some work in the city of Coachella. And so for us in the city, it's important that we create a feedback loop that's happening through our nonprofits. Moreover, it's also very important that we continue to strengthen our structure and internal mechanisms within City Hall. So as a city council, we have moved forward on having a bilingual agenda. We've also have a bilingual translator within the City Hall. I know there have been a number of different efforts done at the Planning Commission efforts or commission. And I'm very proud of the work that they have done to get more local participation. For us, frankly, it's about making sure that people can turn out. We have done everything, I think, and are working on a lot of solutions in the city to try to drive out participation. Sometimes our residents, you know, because they work 2 jobs or because they're working in the afternoon, they're not able to attend a meeting. So for us, it's very important that there are community meetings, that the developer goes out and meets with folks, and frankly, we need to continue to do that and strengthen that in English and Spanish, and keep moving on those efforts.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Emanuel Martinez.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, I'm not going to repeat a lot of the things. There's some good ideas out there, but I'm very proud of the work that we've been able to do, just outreaching to the community, making sure that they're aware of any event or any development. Obviously, sometimes there are disagreements. And I think, you know, having groups, meetings are important. One of the things, for instance, that we've been doing and have been doing for the last number of years is having community meetings at at every neighborhood, which is called Latin Landscape Districts, LLDs. We have 38 of them throughout the city, spread out, and there's some particular ones where we can actually host community meetings within those LLDs, and we schedule them throughout the year to see what we can do to better serve the community. And oftentimes it is a challenge to get people out to these meetings, so we're always finding innovative ways to making sure we're getting input, whether it be you know, these meetings, whether it be social media, whether it be community gatherings that we hosted at libraries or at the church, or also, you know, communicating and engaging with the community via the Interfaith Council, making sure we're also touching base with the religious leaders, which is something that the mayor has taken on. But one of the things for me personally that I think hasn't been mentioned is just calling that person directly. I grew up here. I know people here in the community. I have a big extension of family and friends and relatives, and oftentimes just if those people can't come to the meeting, just call them directly, go to their house, visit them. And that's worked for me, where you can just sit there and listen to them. We need to listen to our residents and oftentimes accommodate their schedules. And that means going to their house or giving them a phone call personally as a city leader to get all the staff and everybody that's in between out of the way. And I think that's very helpful as well.
Thank you. We have increasingly seen city councils across the nation take more active role in national conversation around social justice. Just one second. Sorry. Whether it is community policing, affordable housing, or addressing the needs of our youth. As a community and for all of you, we know this is an important topic. How is Coachella doing when it comes to leading these issues? And I apologize. I think I missed candidate Denise Delgado on the last question. So we're going to go back. I apologize for that. I knew something wasn't quite right. Candidate Denise Delgado, I apologize. Would you like me to reinstate the initial question that I missed in your go around?
Please, Diana.
Okay. I knew something wasn't right. Okay, here we go. City councils sometimes find themselves involved in community disagreement over proposed commercial development or planned events. Even if a proposal is proper for the zoning, local residents may turn out to object to certain types of developments, events in or near their neighborhoods. And in a worst case scenario, they voice their complaints after it has already been approved by council. Tell us your approach to both avoid and deal with these types of situations.
Thank you, Diana. As always, community input is critical and necessary to include them in the decision-making. This is actually part of my platform and a discussion that I had with city staff about what can we do to improve the communication with residents so that they are not learning about the development after it goes up or in construction. This makes me extremely uncomfortable and is an issue in the city. We had discussed putting signboards at the location of the development that is coming through as an agenda item, making it highly visible for those that are passing by and having mailers go out in Spanish. We even discussed possibly extending the 300-yard radius requirement for mailers alerting a larger demographic of upcoming meetings. Currently, the city of Coachella only requires mailers to go out in English, so that ordinance would have to be modified by the council prior to requiring mailers to go out in Spanish as well. Shortly after, the council decided to remove the entire planning commission, and we never got a chance to go back to it. It is just as important to have experienced planning commissioners for these types of reasons. For developments already approved, I would take the time to listen to all residents and explain that adjacent to them has been zoned for commercial development and adopted into the general plan, which was implemented in 2015 and approved by the state of California. Changing a zoning from commercial to residential or vice versa could result in heavy fines and violations for the city of Coachella. From my experience on the planning commission, many times it's the noise and increase of traffic that residents are reluctant to I will make every effort to ensure that construction is not causing residents delays of getting to work or getting their children to school. Additionally, I would ensure that hours of operation are done during respectable hours. A traffic study can also be conducted on whether or not we need a traffic light to be placed in that area, and those costs can be negotiated with the developer to manage the increase in traffic. Pedestrian crosswalks and additional safety measures that can be added depending on the development. It is also a great opportunity to share with residents what incentives the new development would bring to the city. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Again, I apologize. We're going to start with you with this next question. We have increasingly seen city councils across the nation take a more active role in the national conversation around social justice, whether it is community policing, affordable housing, or addressing the needs of youth. As a community, and for all of you, we know this is an important topic. How is Coachella doing when it comes to leading on these issues? Candidate Denise Delgado.
Thank you. We are fortunate to have many affordable developments going up throughout the city of Coachella and others ready to break ground in a month or two, many in which I was a part of. During COVID-19, funding has been allocated to help with rental assistance, and a rent moratorium is in place that many advocacy groups fought for. With regards to community policing, this is also part of our platform. We need to have our own police department. This is due to many reasons. It gives us more authority to allocate funding to certain programs and nonprofits in the mental health and healthcare industry. Individuals with the expertise to share resources and knowledge and partner with law enforcement. It also gives us more ability to review practices and see where changes need to be made. The police department, unfortunately, is who receives all the calls from homeless youth to calls that should be going to code enforcement and everything else we can think of. So we need to ensure that the calls are being transferred to the correct organizations depending on the situation, and that the data is being kept and tracked. A big challenge is that we don't have the stable revenue streams yet to be able to make that transition or are prepared to do so. Since the sheriffs have been contracted for a long time and no preparations were made to set aside yearly funding for a future police department. Due to this, we have to lean on our nonprofit organizations and state and county resources and apply to all available grants to assist with providing resources and attention to these types of concerns. Additionally, what we can start doing is having conversations, for now that would be virtual, with our community, healthcare professionals, law enforcement, advocacy groups, and local businesses on these issues, and seeing what we can formulate and put into action cohesively. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Leslie Figueroa.
Right, so social justice must be a pillar of our local democracy and should be in every decision we make as a city council. I believe we have come a long way as a city on the issues, but we can and must do better. So we must ensure that our communities are safe and not over-policed, and balance the dynamics of our safety in our community that is equitable and fiscally responsible. So California continues to also have a housing crisis, that is no secret, and Coachella, along with many other cities, have not met the sufficient number of homes that must be built according to the regional housing needs allocation. As the city undergoes a housing element update, we must ensure it includes community input and is dedicated to looking at various housing solutions for the different age groups that live in Coachella, such as deconstructing the housing product that prioritizes only the nuclear family, but opens up that housing choice to other people that also live in our community. And we must look at these co-housing opportunities, community land trusts, and other less traditional housing ideas to get us out of this crisis. We can always do better and ensure that we have our city working with collaborative regional organizations to dramatically increase the housing production and also preserve the existing housing that already is in our city. And with our youth, who are one of the most important people in our community, should definitely be supported along with our seniors. You know, when we say that young people are really the future of our city, we should really mean it and make sure that we're prioritizing and giving them the opportunities to thrive in Coachella and for spaces to gather. I hear that a lot from folks who live in the community, but I also hear it from folks who are older in the community, and being able to provide intergenerational spaces where we can learn from each other and really, you know, move Coachella into a better community. I know I commit myself to working with youth, to working with seniors, and have worked with different age groups, and you start noticing that people align with a lot of the issues that they see, and sometimes also align with the needs that they want to have in their community. I know I want to make sure that we're also creating a youth commission in our city to involve our young people within our local government, and work with existing community organizations that already support youth and already support seniors, and also are supporting homeless youth in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Naftali Galarza.
Thank you. You know, something I think that's very unique to City of Coachella leadership and candidates alike is that if I think of any candidate or any current council member, we're all first generation, you know, kids of immigrant farm workers that, you know, came to the US for a better life. You know, I think that's something very unique to our city and to our leadership, our candidates. And that's why I think, you know, most of us, if not all, went out to study, receive higher education, and come back to this community. We purposely chose to come here. You know, I think the mayors here, the council members, the candidates, I think if they all dedicated the amount of time they dedicate to run a campaign or be public service, they would be making a lot more money somewhere else. But because of the life experiences that we came in and we grew up with, is why we're here. I support wholeheartedly the goal to create our own police department. You know, we'll bring in community to be part of the process. It's going to cost a lot of money to begin with. We don't want to make sure that community knows why we're spending a lot of money to, you know, build out the buildings, whatever cost it comes in. Work with the current mayor and council to create a local citizens police complaint commission or review board. Ensure that those people are community residents of our city, that we get that the city and others get to a point. Reforming the methods that are taught in the local police training academies. Implement community policing. Implementation of community policing creates local neighborhoods where the residents know their local sheriffs, their local officers, police. When a relationship is built, tense confrontations are avoided. The concept is very simple, but very effective when we get to implement it. I look forward to working with the sheriff to assign and making sure that we work together to assign the same officers to be in our city full time, and ensure that, you know, we get it done in the contract. Implement public monthly roundtable. One thing that we want to do is implement public monthly roundtables with agencies that serve in our cities, like the police, fire, our school district, CVWD, the county, Coachella veterans, nonprofits and chambers, and many other business groups and nonprofits that we could bring in, and having these communications on how we can make our city a healthier city and one that we're proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Stephen Hernandez.
Thank you again. You know, I think the issue of social justice is a lot greater than just the police and police department. A lot of candidates have talked about what we need to do as a city to address the public safety element. However, it's very important that as a community, we continue to build on making sure that our residents feel comfortable in the city of Coachella. That's why it was very, very important to us to pass the Sanctuary City Ordinance. That's why for us in the city of Coachella, it's going to be very important that we move forward on Indigenous People Day. Coachella is a very progressive city where we are making sure that our residents are included. Moreover, this is about ensuring that our residents have access to capital and banking so that they can open up a small business within the city of Coachella. Very proud of the work that we've been doing in our downtown to make sure that the shuttered storefronts are bringing life back into our downtown, and that our local businesses or our local families can be successful. People's success in Coachella shouldn't be demonized or nor called a classism, and people are saying that right now, and that's malarkey. I think it's also important that we talk about housing and good housing and affordable housing, but not only housing, but housing for all. If you're from Coachella and you see success in the city, you can live in the city of Coachella. But you know, if you need help to find an affordable housing, we're going to continue to build affordable housing. I think the issue of healthcare is also very important. That's why we moved forward on a 40,000 square foot, the first clinic to be built since 1983 within the city of Coachella. Very proud of the partnership that we established with Borrego Health. Moreover, I think it's important that we continue to invest in our schools, because when you talk about what's going on or the lack of investment in these communities, our schools is also another issue that we need to address. Very proud of the partnership that we're moving forward with the school district on Palmview. And I look forward to the conversations we can have for Coachella Valley High School. So it's more than just policing. It's about having a balanced approach so that we can really address social justices and equity issues in our community.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Emanuel Martinez.
Thank you for the question. I think for me, achieving social and economic justice is one of the primary reasons why I ran for city council. I grew up here. As I mentioned, my parents, my dad was a farm worker. My mom started there as well. I understand what the struggle was, having parents, and trying to survive on that income with 4 children, right? So, but we also learned that there's opportunity here in this country. If you work hard and get an education, you can go out and do things for your community. And for me, my experiences living in that environment is what really pushed me and motivated me to run for office and pursue social economic justice for our community. Because I remember what the parks used to be like when I grew up playing in the parks. I remember the lack of shopping centers and amenities that existed here in the city of Coachella, where we had to go elsewhere and spend our tax dollars, our hard-earned tax dollars in another city. And so we're trying to make sure that does not happen, that we have opportunities. And it's really a multi-variable equation and factors that go into achieving social economic justice. And one of, I think for me at the high level, is making sure that we built a strong, resilient environment with good infrastructure that can support families, that can support businesses. And by that, I mean making sure that we have good streets, that we have bringing quality development that's going to provide businesses and jobs, that we have clean water and adequate sewer capacity, that when we're working with developers, that we strike a balance so that when they're building out infrastructure, the community can benefit as well. I think it's unreasonable to have a developer come in and then say, by the way, we want you to build 100 affordable housing units, because I also understand pro formas in businesses, but I also understand that we can strike good, reasonable balances and negotiate on some of these opportunities for our community to benefit. So I remember what it was being a kid, going to Palm Desert Mall with my dad, coming home in his clothes, wearing his clothes that he wore to work that day, and getting disparaging looks. And so for me, that's what drives me to do what I do, and making sure that we're fighting for Coachella and providing a better quality of life for everybody.
Thank you. The economy is constantly evolving, and it is no secret that automation, innovation, and general technological advancement in the workplace is increasingly changing and even threatening blue-collar, hospitality, and service-related jobs. As a city that is home to many working families, how can you as a council member help to shape your community's future to prepare them for success? What would a next century Coachella ideally look like to you? We will start with candidate Denise Delgado.
Thank you. We need to be providing Coachella residents with skills trainings and retraining in industries that are in need. And there's a future in industries where they can promote or apply these skill sets in other occupations. We should be partnering with the community college, Cal State San Bernardino, UCR, our school districts and labor organizations that offer these types of education. We need to have high-speed internet service throughout the city. We lack that infrastructure, and that vulnerability was exposed in more ways than one during this pandemic. And our students and working class parents are paying the ultimate price for it. We have to partner with our internet providers, state and federal agencies, on how to remedy that critical need. It is now becoming a human need because many programs, information, applications, and services are now done through the internet. Our population is growing rapidly, and services and urbanization is increasing. Environmental, social, and economic sustainability is a must to keep pace with the rapid expansion that is taxing our city's resources. Sustainable development and transportation will be a high priority. That includes less traffic congestion, better air quality, free Wi-Fi in areas where residents gather, like in our downtown, device chargers, and free refillable drinking water fountains. Additionally, a next century Coachella for me includes addressing some of the income inequality by approving developments that are going to bring good paying, sustainable jobs. And if elected, I look forward to working with the City of Coachella Chamber of Commerce and Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce, and working together, learning from one another, and making this happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Candidate Leslie Figueroa.
So moving Coachella into a next century city requires a lot of community involvement and interest to really assess and improve any connectivity in our community. Now more than ever, I know we need to be efficient and have really successful broadband access. I know everyone's been talking about broadband, and you know, it's pretty important. And this infrastructure is really critical to the long-term success of Coachella. You know, however, it's also equally important that we establish these programs and form a community movement that really teaches our intergenerational households how to access and use these services and programs in the digital age, because we know it's not going anywhere. We need to partner with academic institutions, school districts, workforce development centers, and we can create these opportunities for all people to be prepared for careers that depend on the use of technology. But this doesn't mean that industries who are adapting to these strategies may simply just lay people off and not acknowledge the people that have been working in these jobs for a long time. In fact, they should work with the people to ensure these jobs are secure within this new forming industry of technology. The city of Coachella is really on the verge of innovation. I think that's our biggest strength. And we should do our best to connect with our talented community residents, especially young people who are coming back from different areas that they're living in, back from school, or have lived in other communities for a long time and are ready to be in their community and really move us forward in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Naftali Galarza.
I think it's important for us in this aspect to invest in youth, whether it's in, you know, we talked about earlier in social justice, and now talking about the future, investing in youth, working with our school district, where, you know, I've had the pleasure of working over the last 3 years, and that we, you know, partner and we invest in education. You know, we need to make sure that although, you know, it's true that not every student is going to go to college, we need to make sure that we treat every student as if they're going to college. Because if we prepare every student to be college ready, and they choose go to college, or they choose to stay here and work, start their own business, they're going to be the most prepared students and achieve greatness. We want to make sure that we work in partnership with our labor unions to make sure that we work that the apprenticeship programs are well known to our students, to our residents, and now at the same time working with the chamber, with Riverside County EDA. As well as CVEP, who has some iHubs, you know, in Indio and Palm Desert, in Palm Springs, talking about how can we bring innovative programs to our city and ensuring that, you know, our youth, our future workers grow from it. You know, I have a 4-year-old and another baby that's 3 months, and I think about them, right? I think about today, you know, if I was a student under COVID, you know, and if it happened in the late 1990s or early 2000s, it wouldn't even be possible. We didn't have the internet that we have today. And I know that, you know, talking about 15, 20 years from now, I can only imagine what kind of world we're going to be living. And I'm excited to, you know, build those roads and those paths that are going to create endless opportunities for my daughters, for your daughters, for your sons, and for everyone. So, you know, thank you for the opportunity today to speak. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. Mayor Stephen Hernandez.
Thank you. I think you hit the nail on the head for not only the city of Coachella, but the state of California and the nation. The optimization of our economy is the big question moving forward. And I think a number of the candidates have talked about, you know, training for our youth. They've talked about training for our existing workforce and making sure that we can retrain them and allow them to access and be a part of this economy. A number of candidates have talked about building out the infrastructure, and I think we need to continue to do that, as well as folks have mentioned the educational partnerships and collaboration that we need to do with or make with our nonprofits, but also our junior colleges, our private colleges, our public colleges. All of those are very, very important. I think for us in the city of Coachella, and the chamber may not like this, what I'm about to say, but I think it's also important that as a community, we, you know, just pay attention to the conversation that's happening regarding universal basic income. We know that in the future, there are going to be losers and winners. There's going to be those families that are going to be able to adjust, and there's going to be those families that are not going to be able to adjust and are going to struggle. I've been paying attention to what Mayor Michael Tubbs is doing in Stockton and the case study that they have going on, where they're talking about universal basic income and providing a stipend, you know, to families or individuals, $500, $700, so that they don't get left behind. we need to make sure that in the city of Coachella that we're progressive, that we're not afraid to talk about those issues and have a dialogue, because what we're looking at, and you've seen it during this pandemic, wealth has gone from even exacerbated more than any time in history, where billionaires have become a lot richer, and the middle class and also the working class have just been a huge transfer of wealth. So we really need to think about what's going to happen, and we really need to think about what the Fed and the state can do to frankly break up some of these monopolies who are changing Main Street and folks and places like Coachella.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Emanuel Martinez.
Thank you for the question. I think for me, a couple of things that I think about for the future of the city of Coachella is it's going to be a city where we're going to need a lot of technology. It's going to be a city where we're going to have to focus on smart growth and net zero, and really going to have to focus on our energy future as well, making sure that we provide low cost, reliable energy to support this high-tech world that we're moving into. I think we've already begun to take some steps in that direction. And I think we're just gonna have to do more. For instance, down Cesar Chavez Boulevard, we were able to secure funding to make sure that we have high-speed internet, cable internet that runs down there. So we have a backbone already there where we can build off of, and we have integrated some aspects of our city, such as our signal synchronization project, right? And we're gonna have to build that more to make sure that the community has access to that. In terms of smart growth, we broke ground on the Chelsea development, the 105 mixed unit project in downtown that's gonna have commercial and affordable housing, where it's gonna allow for a new generation of people. You know, if it's a single person, young person that wants to live in a downtown area, that would be a perfect fit, right? We've also making sure that we're providing housing for all, right? And in older neighborhoods, we allowed garage conversions to allow for that multi-generational living, right? So making sure that we provide that environment for families to be able to survive is very important. Again, I'm gonna touch on the educational aspect. That's gonna be very important that we train the workforce for the future, and making sure that we're providing our students opportunities outside the classroom that we have done in the past, so that they know that there's opportunities in engineering, city managers, or being an entrepreneur that can help them in this new innovative future. And I think for me, that was something that I've been making sure that we expose our youth so that they know that these opportunities exist. Because as a farmer kid, I didn't have those opportunities, but we need to just continue to make sure that we push forward on, I think, those three pillars.
Thank you, Council Member. And thank you all for your comments and willingness to spend some time with us tonight to share your positions. A reminder that tonight's event will be available for replay at NBCPalmSprings.com as soon as it is posted. Once again, thank you to our candidates and audience, and a reminder from the Coachella Chamber of Commerce to everyone, please get out and vote. Good night.